My name is Shannon Gonzalez Miller, and I serve as the Director of Scholarships and Grants in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion at The Ohio State University. I have been invited by the team of the Frank W. Hale Black Culture Center, led by the beloved Larry Williamson, to participate in their innovative series called Student Stories. The student scholars that are sharing their stories are the 2019-2020 Mlk Scholars. This scholarship was established in 1970 and is awarded to students who are at the end of their remarkable career. The accomplishments include an exceptional academic record, a pledge to service, and a commitment to leadership for the Office of Diversity and Inclusion and the greater university community. The selecting and awarding of Mlk Scholars could not happen without the support of and the contributions from many. I would like to thank the Mlk Scholarship Committee and Ohio State's faculty and staff for their contributions to this scholarship. Information about how to contribute to the next class of Mlk Scholars can be found on our webpage at odi.osu.edu. It is my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Jimmy Nash, a moral scholar from Cleveland, Ohio, who in May of 2020 earned a Bachelor of Science degree from the College of Medicine's School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences with a major in health science and a minor in biology. Jimmy knew attending a school like Ohio State would offer him a range of opportunities for which he was prepared to take full advantage of, beginning with his participation as in the Moral Scholarship Program and their Living Learning Program. Congratulations, Jimmy, on being named one of the 2019-2020 Mlk Memorial Scholars.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As you reflect on the beginning of your undergraduate career, what influenced you to apply to the Moral Scholarship Program and their Living Learning Program?
Thank you. I was initially, truth be told, not wanting to attend the Ohio State University. I wanted to get out of the state. I felt like that would be the best way for me to really achieve the growth that I knew I wanted to achieve during my collegiate career. However, I had a very persistent advisor that pushed me to apply for OSU, and based on my involvement in high school with NAACP and being a student leader within my institution, they thought that I would be a great fit for the Moral Scholarship Program. I very much so applied, not really understanding the gravity of the program and how high of an honor it really is to be awarded such a scholarship, especially considering the amount of people that do apply every year. Once I was awarded the scholarship, my parents were like, "You're going to Ohio State. There's no question about it. This is where you're going." And during that time, I was able to do a little bit more research into the program itself and also the institution. But once I came onto campus for orientation, which was actually my first time on campus, I was introduced. Wow. I was very much so not wanting to go here. And so I finally stepped foot on campus. And I really felt what people say when they say, this is the right choice. Mm-hmm. And I know that feeling now, and I've felt it throughout my 4 years here. And so I met the staff at Mlk, and at that point, it was Ralph Cochran and Courtney Nichols, as she is now Courtney Johnson, and I felt at home. At such a large institution on such a large campus, they allowed me to feel welcome. They allowed me to feel like this transition could be done easily with their assistance. And they would be there to guide me through whatever path I chose. And because of that interaction during orientation, I applied for learning community. I, at this point, still had no clue if I was going to get in or not. And once I got accepted, I've met there some of the best friends I have in my life. We're still very, very close friends now. And it gave me a great uh, piece of stability during what is um, a very large transition point in your first year of college, especially considering what happened during my first year with the presidential election and so many other things.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I entered in fall of 2016, which, as we know, was the last presidential election. And, I was newly 18. So this is my first time voting. So, of course, I was very excited about that. I felt very empowered to be a part of
Mhm.
this, um, what many consider, and then I do consider, a great part of our nation, which is being able to vote, right? And so I was very, very involved in understanding the candidates and the platforms. But as many understand, that was also um, it was a very heavy time considering the candidates or candidates in particular. And there was a lot of rhetoric that was thrown around, not only on campus, but on social media and just in what we consumed on a daily basis. And so that made the transition in that first year very difficult, considering, I was originally a biomedical engineering major and one of maybe two Black students in my engineering coursework, right? So not only do I have to traverse being in this new environment, trying to take on the responsibility of voting, but also trying to find my place in this setting, which is very much so unlike the racial makeup and just demographic makeup of what I was used to in high school. And so it was a lot to really take in. But I knew that at the end of the day, once I left, all those engineering courses, calculus and chemistry and all that, I was able to find solace in the learning community. Because no matter what our majors were, and of course we had political science and art and so many different things, we all had a common understanding and want to make a change, a social change within whatever industry we were looking to go into. And so that helped give me some stability during that time.
Great. So during your time, so you spent the entire, of course, first year in the Living Learning program,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So during that autumn semester, as once the election was finalized,
Mhm.
um, did you find that the community was strengthened and that the bonding was intensified in terms of now this new way of life that we
Mhm.
were about to experience?
I did. That was the first place that we had a debriefing session about it,
Mm,
because our RAs at the time, and of course we had the ODI and the MSP staff heavily involved within the learning community. They held debriefing sessions for us, and they were needed. I didn't realize at that time how much they were needed, but looking back on it and taking in everything that happened, it was very much so needed to have a space to be able to voice my fear,
mm,
my anger at what had occurred, um, and uncertainty with what my next 4 years could look like, especially with me now being a legal adult, and a lot of what happens in government really affecting me now more than ever. And so I was able to really speak to my friends, really speak to my RAs, and really speak to the staff about this, and also hear it be echoed with other people, right? Because I think it's very easy to feel very isolated during that time and think that, you know, based on your identities, whatever they may be, that you have a very secular um, experience. But it was very refreshing and very much so needed to hear um, my fears, rebounded from so many other people. And so yeah, I do think we ended up speaking a lot that first semester and really into second semester, especially after
mm,
inauguration. That was the time I participated in my first protest on campus.
mm.
It was a very invigorating time for me, and I think that's because I had that community around me, and I can't say that experience during that time would have been the same had I lived in another residence hall, let alone at another institution.
Wow, that's amazing. So that's clearly, based on your resume, did not deter you from engaging, or it may have even inspired you to engage in
Yes.
activities. So, because over the course of your undergraduate career, you were very active in a variety of service activities and leadership positions. So can
Yes.
you talk maybe a little bit more about what the inspirations were for you to participate in such a largely broadly?
Sure. So I honestly think a lot of it stems back to my parents,
Mhm.
who really not only taught me to really kind of enjoy being in school. They knew I liked school. They knew I enjoyed learning, but making sure that I had enjoyment outside the classroom, and that's something they really kind of nailed into me prior to leaving for college. But also them really teaching me and instilling in me the idea excuse me, that I have to give back.
Mhm.
That so many people along my way, for me to even get to college, let alone in college, the amount of people that really took the time, took their personal time to mold me into the young man I am today. If I have the opportunity to do that for others, I should do that. And while and, just reaching back as I climb the ladder to whatever my goals may be, and so with that, I took that into stride, and I flew off with that. And so the first major involvement I think I had on campus was actually within ODI, with OURS, which stands for the Office of
Mhm.
Diversity and Inclusion Undergraduate Recruitment Society.
Mhm.
And so essentially through the MSP, or through the Mlk Scholarship Program, we help recruit high school students, and let alone maybe even middle school and elementary students, exposing them to college, give them a college tour, talking about our experience applying to college. And I think as a first year, um, you probably more than anyone can remember that college experience and applying and doing Common App and doing the essays and what's and understanding where some of these students come from. And so I had the opportunity to bring my high school down. One of my post-secondary programs I
Mhm.
did in Cleveland, I had them come down for a tour during that year. And that really showed me, I really care about higher education. I really care about access to higher education, and how many students don't see an institution like Ohio State as even a possibility for them. Students within Columbus who may live right down the street and go to high school, maybe 5 minutes away, don't see Ohio State as a tangible pathway for them because of what they see, because of the lack of representation they may notice when they have Ohio State come to their institution. And so that was the first large thing I got involved in, which led to me becoming a diversity ambassador within the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. And that really took what I did within ODI and MSP to the larger scale to the entire university. And so I had the opportunity to travel all across Ohio, really speaking about my experiences as a student applying to college, and being a face for who is also a student and showing the students that who you are, the identities that you hold, your experiences that you've happened up until this point, can lead you to where I am because I'm here and I'm proof of that. And so I did that throughout my entire um, 4 years at the institution,
Really?
honestly, amongst other
Okay.
things. Yes.
Okay. So what else were you involved in as you think about your sophomore year and your junior year? Can you share a little bit about what you were involved in?
Sure. Starting my sophomore year, I became a resident advisor,
Mm.
which I owe a lot to. I owe a lot to that experience. Working with first years as a second year is a very trying. Anyone that's been at RA knows it's a very trying, and very um, it's hard work.
Growth
It's a lot of
moments, a big growth moment for you.
it's a very big growth moment, especially when you're only 1 year apart from removed from these
Mm,
students.
mhm,
Uh, and I learned that a lot of them thought I was, a little bit older, and so they had a very
mm,
different way of approaching me. And once they learned that I was second year, they kind of relaxed a little bit.
mhm,
But I really walked into that role because I saw, as great as my experience was within the MSP learning community, I recognized that across campus, a lot of the resident advisors were not Black. And Black males represent, honestly, the smallest demographic of resident
mm,
advisors. And I remember, within my first year, small things that become very important when you're moving into a new space, like where can I get a haircut, right?
mm,
Where can I find food that, is seasoned the way I would like it to be seasoned that I'm used to, right? These very
exactly.
small things. Um, and I recognized that I wasn't able to find that in the art staff that I had, let alone other friends that I had that lived across campus. And so I came into that role and really did it more so I can be the representation for first years coming in to see that someone who's in a position that's supposed to help lead them, supposed to help be a resource for them through, this great transition that I had, that they can see themselves represent in that person. And so I took on that role, and I was an RA throughout my the rest of my collegiate career, so through senior year. Um, Outside of that, I got heavily involved and got really close to a general chemistry professor. So I became a peer mentor. Also working with first years, I would help them in the course, helping them study for the materials and the tests, which was great because it allowed me to refresh my memory since pre-med, I need to have that knowledge,
Yes.
as well, right? From there, going into junior year, I became a human physiology TA or teaching assistant. And so I helped lead the study sessions with the professor. And for anyone that's taking that course at this university, they know it's a very difficult course. But it was also a space where I didn't see anyone that looked like me represented. And I knew a lot of Black students or students of color that were in the course with me. And this is maybe like a 340-person lecture, who would not go to the study rooms because they felt intimidated, because once again, they would be in a space where they were in the minority. And so I went into that position so that, and I would honestly reach out specifically to the students of color and say, hey, here's my study time, come to the study time. Of course, it was open to everyone, but I wanted to specifically target them so they knew, once again, there was assistance here. There was someone that looked like you that was here, that can help you through, what's a pretty difficult course, but is mandatory for anyone going into medicine or nursing. Outside of that, I also got involved with Band of Brothers, which is an organization that is under the Bell National Resource Center. And so through that organization, through junior and then throughout senior year, I became the director of professional development. And so my position was to help develop programs that were specifically tailored to things like resumes, scholastic opportunities, connecting with faculty and staff, connecting them with the scholars within our organization, and also became vice president of the organization as well. So that, of course, just supports the president in those duties. Outside of that, there's small things like being involved with the Bell National Resource Center, which is actually a very large part of my experience, from the Leadership Institute in my first year through being a part of the inaugural class of the William F. Picard Scholars Program, which really propelled me forward in so much that I'm looking to do post-graduation.
Interesting. So just a question about your experience with the tutoring. Having been explicit or taking on maybe a little bit of a recruiting to get the students to participate in your session, did you find that students were responding to that, and that you did have students of color come to your session? And
I did. So
Okay.
there is a larger group chat on GroupMe you have called BOSU, which stands for Black OSU. And
Oh, okay.
so, so when I became a TA, I instantly sent a message into the larger group chat, which has about 1,000 students, which obviously doesn't make up the entire Black
Sure.
student population, but a good portion of it, which, in and of itself. And I sent a message and said, here are my office hours for anyone that's in this course. And I have people reach out and say, hey, I'm going to come, or I would individually meet with them to work with them, right? And so I think it was needed, and I think many times there's a lot of resources at which we don't take advantage of, we as in students of color sometimes, not only because we don't know about them, which is an issue in and of itself, but because we can be intimidated based on the demographic area, because it very much so can be representative of the larger institution of itself. And in a course where you need so much help, and that's a course where you really need studying with a group of people, really is, I would say, is the only way to really succeed. it was a little disheartening to see that there were students who possibly had to repeat the course or were just not doing well because they were not reaching out to those resources because they were afraid. And so
Mhm.
I think it did help, and I was able to, even years after, even my senior year, still share my notes and still say, hey, I encourage you all to do this. So I think that was very, very helpful for me, to see that this work is important and understand that, but also be a guide and resource for them.
Powerful. That's very powerful. So of these, so you had both inside and outside of the classroom experience. It seems like there was a nice balance there. So of these or others, maybe, was there one that was especially transformative and affirming for your personal and professional aspirations?
Yes. Honestly, there's two that come to mind, but the one I really would have to say would be the William F. Mlk Scholars Program. I think I had no idea when applying to it, which I can thank Mr. Williamson for and Dan Thomas for really prodding me to apply for that. I had no idea when applying for such a program how transformative it would be for my last 2 years of my time at OSU. I knew I wanted to go into medicine. I knew that this was something that was important to me. And I knew I wanted to make a change and be a further representation for my community in medicine, which is highly underrepresented, especially Black males.
Mhm.
Um, but I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do. I just would say I would chalk that up to, med school teach me that. But being given the opportunity to do an independent research program through the Picard Scholars Program, I was able to look at my internship I had with Equitas Health under the Project Inc. program and say, you know what, let me look more into sexual education. And let me look specifically into the incidence rate of HIV.
Mhm.
And so I did my independent research program on the increasing incidence rates of HIV in the Black community, and what social and biological factors may create such what we see as such a problem or issue. And so I fell in love with the project. I learned so much that I wasn't learning inside the classrooms, just because
Mhm.
of the specific subject area I was looking at. And but I also noticed a discrepancy and a disparity, honestly, in not only the care that's given and the resources that are provided to people of color, specifically Black people, but also in the disparity in the providers. And so having that project and also having my internship and putting those two together, I said, this is what I think I want to do. This is what I think I want to do as a
Mhm.
physician. I want to do HIV care. I want to do HIV research. And I want to further our understanding of how this can um, impact certain communities more heavily than it does others, which is exactly what it does. So
Mhm.
that program, I think specifically, once again, thanks to Dan Thomas, Mr. Williamson, really laid the groundwork for what I'm looking to do for the rest of my life at this point.
Wow. And what was the size of the class of the first Picard group?
There were 6 of us. There were 6 of us selected that year. Yes.
So I assume that you form, much like the Band of Brothers, a nice, strong community to support each other through.
Yes. I knew uh, almost all of them actually going into
Mhm.
when we applied. I knew almost all of those that were selected already, and one of them is actually an Mlk Scholar himself, Mo Lathan.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so and I've known Mo since I think my freshman year. We've had the same trajectory, same
Mm.
ideas moving forward. We became really close, and I think it allowed me to learn so much more about what their passion projects were, what they wanted to do, and understand that there's so many ways to be an advocate. There's so many ways to be agents of change within your industry of choice and what you're interested in doing. And that's what I was also able to see by listening to their projects and listening to the research they come up with, and what they wanted to change within the community.
Great. So I had mentioned at the beginning that you were really eager to take advantage of the wide variety of opportunities that Ohio
Mm-hmm.
State offered. And so beyond what you have shared already, I know that you did participate in two education abroad experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us why you wanted to travel, where you went, and what
Mhm.
changed you about these experiences?
So I initially did not think that I could travel abroad. As a pre-med student, your schedule is very, very packed. Even your summers, just because of the coursework and what you need to get done for the prerequisites for medical school and the application process. Uh, but I had a friend who went on the ODI-sponsored trip to France and Morocco that summer before during the inaugural trip, and she came back so excited. She was, and I saw the pictures, I saw the snaps that they had taken while there, and I was like, wow, I would love to do that. But once again, I wrote it off and said, there's no way I would be able to not only afford it, but have the time to go. Um, and I ended up speaking to someone. I ended up speaking to Louise actually within the Office of International Affairs, and she said, "You know what, Jimmy, we're gonna make this work." And I said, sure. And so I also got invested in the actual topic area of the trip, which was looking at um, social and religious infrastructure within legislation between France and Morocco. Because at one point, France had colonized Morocco. And it wasn't until I believe, I don't want to give the wrong historical facts, somewhere in the 1900s, I'll say that general term, where Morocco became an independent nation. And we were able to see on the trip the influences that one country had on the other, but also understand the way in which legislation works on an international scale, and how targeted it can be, and also discriminatory. And so on that trip, we ended up going to, I believe, maybe 7 or 8 different cities during a 4-week period, which is a lot of traveling. We started in Paris. We spent about a week in Paris. From Paris, we went to Aix-en-Provence, which is in the south of France. And then we went into Marseille, which is right on the tip of France, the most scenic and beautiful place I think I've ever seen in my life. And from Marseille, we flew directly into Morocco. And from there, we went to, like I said, I think about 5 different cities. So Marrakesh, Rabat, Fez, and Casablanca, and I'm sure I'm forgetting one other. And so on that trip, I was able to also look at medicine and healthcare and public health on an international scale. And so I think what I appreciate about that trip was it being able to, and everyone on that trip being able to take what they're doing and what they're interested in within their own, once again, industry of choice, and what are looking to do on a professional level, and take small snapshots of that from that trip and apply it to themselves and what they're looking to do. And so I really enjoyed not only being able to go international for the first time, and being able to visit cities that I've only dreamed about, but also being able to really take back and understand how public health, and especially marginalized communities on an international scale, is very much so the same problem, that there's a lack of resources and disparity in the care that they receive.
Okay, so you've had a wide range of activities and
Yes.
you've been involved in. So is there one that's, you haven't talked yet about your experience with African American homecoming. So do you want to share a little bit about that experience that you had? And that was your junior year, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That was my junior year. That was one of the most nerve-wracking, but also the most exciting times.
Yes.
That's
More than
definitely
this experience, more than this experience.
yeah. It was definitely a top 5, and honestly, I really might put it in the top 3. You applied for the pageant the spring before, so I think I applied the end of my sophomore year. And it's hosted by Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated Kappa Chapter, and they put it on every year. And it's essentially a twist on the classic black and gold pageant that every collegiate chapter usually does. But our chapter at the institution specifically made it a homecoming pageant, because initially, not until Jesse Owens' daughter was the first Black homecoming queen at the university, not until there had there been any representation of Black people on the homecoming court. And so, with Jesse Owens being a member of the fraternity, they started this tradition. And so you apply at the end of my sophomore year, and it's what many should figure, a traditional pageant is. You have the talent portion, the questions, and all these things to get ready. And so all throughout the summer, I was practicing and trying to figure out what I want to do. Luckily, I have a performing arts background because I attended a performing arts high school from fifth grade really until I graduated high school with a background in classical music and dance. And so I had that little, head start there, which I think came in handy. But it was really nice to not only have close friends. I had two close friends that did the pageant that year with me, but also meet so many other students. There was about 10 of us, I think, total that did the pageant that year. And so being able to really perform and really introduce yourself and really put on this show not only took me back to performing, which is something I absolutely love, and was so a part of who I was prior to college, but also just taking part in this historic moment because of the rich history of the pageant, right at the university and what that does. But the pageant happened, and I was very nervous because I didn't think I was going to win. And then she called my name, the MC called my name, and it was such a great joy to not only perform and put so much work into this, but also see it come out with a crown and being able to, and being able to partake in the homecoming festivities and being in the parade. I went to at least 3 different galas in a span of a weekend. Yeah, it was a very busy thing, and then being able to bring my parents to the homecoming game and have them, see me with the crown and being in the festivities as well was a great thing. It was honestly one of the top, like I said, one of the top experiences I've had at the university because of everything I was able to partake in.
Wow, that's you've been active for sure. So thinking about all of that you have participated in, is there anything that we've left out that you haven't been able to share yet that you'd like to share that really was a memorable moment for you?
I think something within this past senior year, and it really is just pushing forward with Picard, and like I said, my internship with Project Inc. Was being able to present the research that I had come up with and really put hard work into with Picard at the International Colloquium of Black Males Education. And this is something that is usually every year is somewhere else around the world. And so I think the year prior to this, it was in Ireland, right? And so being able as an undergraduate student to be able to introduce your research to everyone from all over who are so interested in investing time, energy, and resources into Black males was so great, and getting so much good feedback and getting so many connections within higher education and understanding. I got so much guidance in the grad school process, which is, in and of itself, a hard thing. And so being able to get so much guidance on just that, but also my research and being able to get feedback and understanding how to push it further and how to really hone it was phenomenal, especially on the undergraduate level, which many people do not get the opportunity to do. And so that really lit the fire for me, especially going through the grad school process of knowing that I was on the right path and that what I'm looking to do is important, that it can help someone, and that it is needed within our larger setting.
Well, speaking of grad school, of that experience, so since you have graduated from your undergrad,
Yes.
What is next for you?
So I have decided to pursue a master's in public health, and after a very nerve-wracking application process and a lot of hard and deep soul searching with what is the best choice for me with the institutions I was lucky accepted into, I will be pursuing my MPH at The Ohio State University full time. And I was luckily and gratefully and humbly accepted a full fellowship that covers the
Mm,
full cost of attendance for the program. So I will be,
wow.
yes, yes. So I'll be in the health behavior and health promotion division on the addressing health disparities track and doing close research with Dr. Janelle Ricks on sexual education and HIV care for Black males.
Congratulations, Jimmy.
Thank
That's
you. Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
That is awesome. So as you prepare for what's next, which will be starting very soon, right? Or
Yes.
in the preparation for that, and thinking about the COVID-19 pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement, what's important to you as you think about the autumn semester beginning?
Safety,
Mm,
for one, both on a physical level with what we are now experiencing as a novel virus that many don't know about, and what is really still a very global pandemic. And so understanding that as large a university as Ohio State is, with so many students coming back onto campus, that does raise so many risks. And being within public health, and of course, one day becoming a clinical physician, I'm very concerned on what that's going to look like and how that's going to affect the education experience of the students, um, especially for students who are already coming in a little bit behind or coming in with a little bit more to have to deal with, right? And so there's so much there to unpack there. With the Black Lives Matter movement and what's really be reinvigorated, excuse me, this summer, but has always been going on, right? Is understanding the damage that's really been done to those of us in the Black community, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and on such a large scale. And so, understanding that for many students, especially those who identify as Black or African American, um, coming into this institution as a first year or returning, right? Not only are you thinking of, I'm trying to get my degree, I'm trying to get through this thing and figure out, what I want to do next. I now have to deal with a global pandemic, right? Of I'm nervous about this, let alone the layer of understanding that there are people in institutions and systemic things that do not value your life, right? Or value yourself as a human and what that should mean. And so I think I do worry, even for myself, on how the psyche will be and trying to traverse this very difficult time on top of it being another presidential election year, right? And so there's so much there to unpack, and so much I do worry for the students um, trying to navigate this experience.
yeah, yeah. And in addition, complicating the matter even more is once again, we will be in a presidential election.
Exactly.
In this even more challenging academic experience. So, do
Exactly.
you have some concerns about that? Oh, my dog's joining us, our conversation.
I
Sorry.
I do. Like I said, I know what it was like during my freshman year. Um, During that time, and once again, the rhetoric that was put out there, and what I witnessed on campus, and what I experienced myself, and so I do worry a lot for the first years, but also just the returning the general student body at large, and what this experience is going to do for them, um, who many are already possibly, very nervous, already very on edge about coming to this institution because of the large scale and the rigor and the nature of it, right? And so I do worry about that. Um, but I also, on the flip side, and not to silver line it, but just to give another perspective, I also recognize that this is a time where young people like myself who are in their 20s, or older students as well, who really are taking charge, right? And really taking their experience and really saying, you know what, no, I will no longer put up with this. No, I have this education now. I know what I want to do. And I will not allow you to put me in this box. I will not allow you to um, lessen my meaning and my humanity any longer. And I think that's such a powerful energy to have. But it's so important that the mental health of these students and of that energy is protected as well. Because, you know, racial battle fatigue is a very real thing, and it really can impede the progress of students, because there's so much to worry about at once.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that really affirms and validates why you were selected as one of the Mlk Scholars.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
so you really are reflecting the spirit of Dr. King's work. So we appreciate you for that. So, so using this platform as
Mm.
an Mlk Scholar, do you have a message, or what would you like to say to the next class of Mlk Scholars, or future
Um,
scholars?
One, congratulations, right? I never in a million years thought that I would be given this. Having seen those that came before me and the amazing work that they were doing on and off campus, um, I this is one of those things where you just don't think it's possible, right? And it's still kind of unbelievable to me. So, you know, congratulations, right? Take that in. But two, something I've learned, especially within advocacy, and whatever you're looking to do on a professional level, um, be strong onto that. Be strong into what your passions are and find a way to align that with advocacy work and as an activist, and making those and being agents of social change. I think it's very easy to think that, hey, you know, we need more teachers, we need more physicians, we need more XYZ, and to think I'm going to go into this field because that's what is needed. But within your passions, whether you're an artist, whether you're a dancer, no matter what you're interested in doing, there's a need for you to be, you know, to be an agent of social change within that industry, within that field. I think it's very important that you hold on to that, and let that be what motivates you. Because once I found what really drives me, what I found what really is connecting me to medicine, um, there's nothing stopping me from wanting to achieve that now. I'm full steam ahead to achieving that, and making sure that there's a pathway for others behind me. I think as long as you're able to do that, you'll be good to go. So,
Great, that's a great message. So I want to thank you for taking the time to participate in this interview and share your story. So as our conversation comes to an end, I want to give you the opportunity to offer closing remarks to our
thank you.
audience.
I think first I want to thank you all, the selection committee, yourself, everyone involved in the process for selecting me. As cliche as it is, I can't imagine what you all saw in me to select me amongst everyone else, right? But I truly do mean that. I want to thank the ODI staff who have been such a rock for me these past 4 years. So much has happened personally, and professionally that I didn't see coming, both good and bad. And I had some very, very low lows in my college experience. And without the staff members that I had within this university, I don't know if I would have made it to this point, and to achieve some of the things I've been able to achieve. Because they saw that I needed the support, and they saw that I needed, either a pat on the back, a hug, or sometimes, you know, quick little shove in the right direction. And I know there's no way I would be here without them. Of course, to my parents who, for the very beginning, saw that college was something that was going to happen, without a doubt, but have been a support system in their own way, for me throughout these 4 years, and understanding that, when I needed to talk, when I needed to get away from so much that was happening at OSU, I could call them up and really vent for hours on end, and be ready to, you know, go right back into the lion's den. And then my support system in general, which includes, of course, the rest of my family, friends, who have made this experience what it was. Of course, both good and bad, and have really given me some of the best 4 years of my life. So I give thanks and humbly accept all that's happened because of them.
Well, before we close, I have a bit of a surprise for you, just a tiny one. On behalf of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, I want to present you with the 2019-2020 MLK plaque. This is
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh.
That's straight. So I'll just take a moment to read it. The Office of Diversity and Inclusion congratulates Jimmy Nash as a Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Scholar, 48th Annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration. So this is for you. So we'll get this to you. I know you've been asking for this.
Thank you so much.
Your encouragement that helped us to make sure that I was able to get that for it, the office was able to offer it and get it ready.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all you've done for the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, for the university in general, and particularly for the students, your peers, that I'm sure I know you've had such a big influence on them. So good luck as you go forward. And we hope that we can talk to you again, maybe during your graduate career.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.